Hi, welcome back to the Swell Shenanigans podcast. I'm your host, Amanda, but you can call me Swell. Here on the Swell Shenanigans podcast, I like talking about all things pop culture, social media, and shenanigans. And today we have another hodgepodge episode of just talking about a couple of things. Funny enough, literally as I was getting down to record this, an article popped up on Twitter and it totally aligns with something that I was thinking about making a TikTok about. So I'm just going to make it into a podcast episode because what's the point of having life experiences as a social media content creator if I can't reuse stories for various things? I follow Mel Magazine on Twitter. I love Mel Magazine. They are a publication. They do some insane stories. Some are very serious in topic, or others are just like, what's the craziest thing that someone came up with when they were like super high and took too many edibles, and like write whole articles about it and like well researched and all of that. And I'm obsessed with that content. I love that. So Mel Magazine, I am not affiliated with them whatsoever, but I'm serious. You guys need to check them out. But this article from them popped up today, and it's called The Rise of the Pharma Influencer. False diagnosis and bad drug recommendations are now just a few hashtags away, research warns. Okay. And this totally fits in with something that's been going on with me lately for sponsorships. So for those of you who don't know, I'm assuming most of you know that I am a YouTuber first and a podcaster like third. I don't really know what's second, but it's probably not podcasting. I'm a YouTuber and I do brand deals on YouTube. The only brand deal I do here is the one through Anchor because I distribute through them. That's it. But I get reached out to, me and my management get reached out to for me to do brand deals on the YouTube channel. I only do integrations. I do not do dedicated videos for sponsorships. For example, I will not do like a paid review, basically like, hey, we'll send you this stuff for free and give you $4,000. Can you make a whole 10-minute video about it? No, I won't do that. So I do integrated sponsorships, which is usually 60 to 90 seconds in the first 5 minutes of a video. And I'm trying to make it very clear that this video is sponsored by, thank you for watching, or thank you for supporting the channel, all this stuff. I put music over it, so it's very clear that you are watching an ad, okay? So I'm not going to say the company name, but in 2021, God, how many brand deals did I do in total? Now I want to do the math. I think there were some months, okay, let's say about 6 or 7 months, I did at least 4 a month. I did at least 30 to 35 brand deals in 2021 alone, okay? And some of those were repeat brand deals for this one brand that I actually really liked working with, okay, originally. And I found my therapist through them, the therapist I still use, all this stuff. I did not have a problem with this brand for a long time. And then as I was finishing up my last brand deal with them, like I literally just finished and I was like, okay, around this time is when they're going to start telling me that like, oh, if they want to continue it and do more and all this stuff, because we had like individual brand deals of like, I think I did 2 individual ones with them. And then they came back and they were like, hey, we loved working with you. We want to do a 3 video deal for like a lump sum, certain amount per each video, that type of thing over the span of a couple of months. After the final one, like a week or 2 later is usually when they would come back to me and be like, hey, we want to do another. And that's what I was expecting. Cause like there was all this, things were going well. As far as I heard from their end, things were going well from like the advertisements they were getting from me. Things were going well. And then like afterwards, I was telling my therapist about it. Cause I told her, she knew I was a content creator. She knows everything. And she was like, yeah, no, I'm letting you know, I don't know how long I'm going to stay here. And was just started telling me about a lot of issues they were having internally with how they were treating their therapists and stuff. And I was like, ooh, I don't like that. And she was like, it's fine for me because of X, Y, and Z. But like, I'm just letting you know, like if things change even more drastically, we're going to have to figure something else out. And her and I, she's still my therapist. She works with a practice here in California. So it's not like she was in another state or anything. So we still do like telehealth therapy sessions and all this stuff. But I was like, you know what, because of that, I'm going to start kind of pulling away, and we talked about that. So they never came back to me for another brand deal, and it wasn't like we had a falling out. They just never came back to me for another brand deal. And I was like, you know what? Good call, all of that. January rolls around, New Year, and I told my new management, I was like, hey, you know what? Because of what happened and like what I heard as I was leaving working like with them, I don't want to, like if they approach us for a brand deal, I don't want to deal with it. And I started seeing that they started doing a lot of TikTok ads. And I was like, Oh, this is what happened. Okay. Because I have been sent offers as a YouTuber that were meant for TikTokers. And like, I'm not going to share the names of the TikTokers that were mentioned and stuff, but the rates are dummy low for what they offer to TikTokers, like $300 for 10 videos for TikTokers. And so I assumed that they were doing that because they were getting cheaper rates from working with TikTokers than they were from working with me and other YouTubers, because I know they worked with a bunch. And so I was like, okay, that's it. Like, that's what that is. That's why they stopped working with me, because I am too expensive for them now or whatever. I don't know. Their ads started getting really bad. And they started getting a lot of negative attention because their advertisements started targeting young women with undiagnosed ADHD. And, kind of preying on that fear of, being an adult with an undiagnosed mental thing going on. Okay. I don't know what term we're using. I don't know if mental illness is the proper state. Learning disability. I have dyslexia, so I usually just say learning disability. I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't work. I'm not a fan of that, so that alone got a lot of publicized flack from journalists and stuff, like, hey, this is really messed up that you're targeting an app that has a pretty large young person demographic, and trying to target them for, preying on their mental health, and then also offering options for medication for these 130-minute, assessment. I was like, yeah, this is bad. This is really bad. Like clockwork, I was like, I reached out to my management again, and I was like, if they reach out, I'm not working with them. Like, I want you to know now, I'm not working with them. And sure enough, 2 weeks after these articles started coming out, they came to me with a $18,000 offer for some sponsored content. And I said no. Another one came to me recently, which was Betterhelp. I'll say the name. I'm not working with them. I've never worked with them. Betterhelp. They approached me with quite a bit of money. And I was like, you know what? I don't like it. I was around on YouTube when they were originally called out. God, 2016, I think it was 2014, 2016 time, when all the YouTubers were like under fire and all that for working with them, and all the questions with their therapists and stuff. And I originally said no. And then I was like, well, hold on, because I haven't heard anything about this company in a while. They're still active. So I said, you know what, let me do some more research on my end, and then I'll get back to you, to my management. Okay. Because I was thinking about it. And then I started looking into it more. And then, like clockwork, because our phones are listening to us, I started getting flooded with TikToks from various users of Betterhelp who have used it. And most of them were not positive. And by most of them, I mean, let's say there was 10, 9 of them were negative, and they were grossly negative, like super bad. So I told her, I was like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. In good conscience, I can't do this brand deal. So she was like, yeah, okay, no problem. I'll let them know. Like, I totally get it. Like, integrity, all this stuff. Here's the other red flag. And this is how no one can say like, oh, they just don't know about this or all this stuff with these brands. Apparently, BetterHelp has a web page already made for when influencers back out of brand deals when they're offered them. I was sent a full-on link with all of the reasons of why I should still work with them. And I was like, no, that's insane. That's a red flag times infinity, that you have to, no means no, including with brand deals. Like, I swear to God. So that's what made me think of this, because again, it's not the same thing, because this is going to be talking about medical professionals being reached out to by drug companies. But it's the same thing that I try to impose upon new creators and small creators, that when you start working with these brands, you have to know where your own line is, and you have to know what you are comfortable with promoting, what your values are, where your integrity lies, and all of that. And you have to be the one to say, hey, this doesn't align with me. I need to walk away. No, and I know that's easier for me to say because I'm in a place where I make good money from just making content on YouTube and all of that. And so it's easy. I don't want to say it's easy for me to turn down $18,000, because $18,000 is still $18,000 regardless of how much content you make. But, I guess you could say it's easier for me because I know that that's not the only brand deal I'm going to be offered this year. It wasn't the only brand deal I was offered that month, and so I guess it's easier for me to say, put your values over it. But it's just like, even if I took that money, the potential losses of one, my own peace of mind, I would never forgive myself if I continued to work with this brand that I now know I don't want to work with. If God forbid someone got hurt because of like poor medication or something like that, like I would never be able to live with myself. Just from a business standpoint, potential backlash from me supporting either company further with all the stuff coming out and, losing followers, views, X, Y, and Z. Like at the end of the day, I have to care about my own business before I care about yours. And your business right now is fucked, and that sounds crass and bad, but like there's no other way to put it. Like I have a business to run, but I'm also a human being. And I don't have a PR team or lawyers to deal with my shit. I have to deal with everything myself. And so I have to be the one to be like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. Goodbye. So, and that's the same thing has to go with every content creator and influencer. And you kind of got to weigh the pros and cons. And I hope that your own beliefs and integrities outweigh everything else. So yeah, that was the main thing I wanted to say about that. But I wanted to bring this up as well because I have familiarity with the medtech space. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast. My dad used to run a medical device conference pre-pandemic. The last one we did was in 2020 in January. And then he does a couple of cyber events now and things like that. But pre-YouTube taking off, I used to do the videography and editing for all of his events. I would film out all the presentations and then I would edit them. And so I learned a lot from doing that because I wasn't just zoning out watching them. I was actually, paying attention to the talks. And so it was a lot of startups, a lot of, things like that. But there were talks of influencer marketing off and on with some of these things and like how you can work with influencers in the medical space, how that can help your business and things like that. So here's the Mel article, and this is by, they hide the name. Okay. Lauren Vinopal. If you're on Instagram or TikTok, you're likely familiar with influencers hustling every type of drug under the sun. Now researchers are examining how pharmaceutical companies partner with patients who are willing to share their experiences with their followers and help give the drugs more credibility. I wouldn't say that influencers hustling every type of drug under the sun. I wouldn't say that that's what I see. I do see people that speak about their own experiences with different medications. For example, people that have had, long-term treatment for depression, anxiety, and things like that. They'll do like, hey, here's how this affected me, and like the negative side effects and then all of that. Because there's just a lot, I think, especially for young people, there's a lot that they don't really tell you about. When you're with mental health and all that stuff, or you only hear about the really, really bad side effects, like death and things like that. And you don't hear about, I guess, I don't want to say mild side effects because I guess any side effect is still sucks, but just, the potential effects of, like do the cons outweigh the pros and things like that. So that's what I see. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily hustling because I wouldn't say that the people that I can see are the ones that are being paid. This is a growing phenomenon, but there is virtually no research on it and very little regulation. Aaron Willis, an associate professor of advertising, public relations, and media design of the University of Colorado, said in a press release, "It's going to help patients be better informed, or is it going to get patients to ask their doctors for drugs they don't really need? We just don't know because no one has studied it." I mean, I guess you could say that this is no different. Okay. I don't want to say it's no different than, say, pharmaceutical ads on television because obviously when you have nameless, faceless actors that are just, in a commercial jumping on the beach because they're so excited about this pill that'll help with, their dick from rotting off, but then also will make their ears fall off, jumping around on the beach and they're so excited that their dick's not going to fall off anymore. I guess that's one thing versus like a content creator or an influencer that you like respect and you like their content, then telling you about this drug and how great it is. And again, we're talking specifically about pharmaceuticals, like things you have to go through your doctor to get through or like get a prescription for and not like weed. I'm hoping that's clear. In order to set forward a research agenda, Willis and Marjorie Delbury, a professor of marketing at the University of Saskatchewan, reviewed 88 existing articles on current industry regulations and practices and parsed together information about the potential impact on consumers. In doing so, they concluded that influencers are the next frontier in direct consumer pharmaceutical marketing. See, that doesn't surprise me. I talk about this all the time about how social media and then therefore the influencer economy is still fairly new. And we really don't know how far it's going to go or, how long till the bubble bursts and it's no longer viable or anything like that. But I mean, yeah, pharmaceutical. I guess you could say that this is already happening. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. People working with influencers to promote their, next new butthole medication. I don't know. I'm trying not to name actual medications so I don't want to get sued. Direct-to-consumer marketing has been an issue ever since the 1980s when commercials for boner pills and Zoloft first graced our TVs. Willis and Delbury's paper argues that this, along with the rise of internet-aided self-diagnosis, has created a culture of patients who tell their doctors what is wrong with them and what drugs they need, as opposed to the other way around. And amazingly, up to 44% of doctors oblige these medication requests. See, okay. As far as self-diagnosis goes, I mean, I'm a woman, so I have opinions on our healthcare system. If you follow me on TikTok, I just posted something about how I was stitched a video and then I posted my own thing about how they hid things from us growing up in sex education about pregnancy and the after effects of it, and even just the realities of giving birth, and how I went to every single sex education thing growing up. My parents signed off on everything. I was allowed to learn everything, and it wasn't until I was in a women's studies class in college that I learned that you actually have to give birth to a placenta, like after you give birth to the baby. And it's like there's just things that they just don't tell you, but I have to see an egg being fertilized 40 times, like there's things like that. And the older I get, the more I have to deal with like the medical industry with drugs or tests or whatever, and just the realities of being a woman with a uterus. The medical industry sucks. It really sucks. God, is it the class action for the IUDs? I will never get an IUD because of this. Okay, yeah, so the IUD breakage, IUD lawsuits, which one? IUDs, they should be. Oh God, this is not okay. I would need a doctor. If anyone's a doctor and wants to come on and talk about, the shenanigans of the medical industry, I would love to do that. Or we can make it a series. We can do insurance. We can do emergency room visits. We can do women's health, men's health, LGBT health. We could do a whole series of shenanigans on the health industry. Would love to do that with qualified people. I'm not qualified to do that, but I will be a moderator. And so that's not what we're talking about. But anyway, my point with bringing this up is that, self-diagnosis, even for myself, like when I was 18 and got Bell's palsy, and like a lot of my own symptoms of my face literally being frozen and other symptoms that were pointing to the fact that it wasn't a tumor and it was other underlying issues and all this other stuff, like, were not taken seriously, partially because I was young, but also partially because I was a woman and they were like, oh yeah, women don't get this and X, Y, and Z. Like, it was stupid. It was fucking dumb to deal with. And they were like, oh yeah, here's this medication. And then I had to find out from my own self that like my birth control wouldn't work on it and all this other shit. It's such a mess. And so a lot of doctors don't take like symptoms from women's or complaints from women seriously. And so self-diagnosis at a certain point kind of becomes necessary. And so I do think that there is a point where it is going too far and people kind of need to, I don't know, self-regulate. That sounds bad. But like, I guess second opinion is the best way for me to put it, because you should get a second opinion before you do any legitimate medical changes or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess self-diagnose. Yeah, I know I'm talking in circles. I'm really trying to figure out the best way to phrase this, because I do think that at a certain point, self-diagnosis is necessary. I don't think it should be the norm. And I do think that TikTok in particular is making things a little insane. But yeah, this article then goes on to talk about, the Federal Trade Commission, requiring that influencers, disclose when ads are talking about. We did this in the last episode. You have to put a hashtag ad or hashtag SponCon or sponsored or gifted, whatever. You have to disclose that it's an ad. Ooh, I didn't know this. The FDA has done the same, where people have to disclose that they're being sponsored when working with promoting a drug. That's interesting. So this article goes on to talk about how for a forthcoming study, Willis has interviewed dozens of pharma influencers and has found that only a small number are paid to post, whereas others post in exchange for free trips to conferences or in some instances to sit on advisory boards. Jeez. That said, some influencers she's spoken to are advocates who are posting for free. Yeah, again, I do think there are people who just want to share their own experiences with drugs and how it affected them. Because again, so many drugs. I found this out from my friend who literally works as a chemist. she was like, yeah, no, a lot of they test drugs on male mice for lab mices because female mice, their hormones fluctuate so much. You mean like a woman with a uterus? My hormones fluctuate. Crazy concept. It'd be great to know what that'll do with various drugs I have to take to make sure I don't go insane. They all say they're really doing this so that other patients have information and can have a better life, she concluded. This is both value and risk in this growing trend. And like anything, it has the potential to become dangerous if we're not careful. So that's for the basics of the article. But I really do recommend Mel. I really do adore them. I love their publication so much. But yeah, I mean, I think with anything, when it's new, there is like a risk, with it. But also, I mean, yeah, see, the FDA just got to get on it more, it seems like. And just got to, I do think we're going to see more crackdowns soon. I really do. And I think that the article also mentioned that they are specifically working with smaller influencers and micro influencers to fly under the radar more. From FDA guidelines. See, I think all it's going to take is one bigger person to get too much attention on their drug peddling. And then, we're going to see, again, a whole overhaul. I really do think it's going to be like just one person, maybe two, just enough backlash to cause a complete overhaul for there to be like legitimate change on like a legal level for guidelines and things like that. Like it's going to be like it may take something like another Fire Fest for them to have to start disclosing things. But I do think that there's going to be something like that in the coming years. I think that that's where we're heading. So that's the main thing that I really wanted to bring up with you guys. But yeah, that's going to be it. If you would like to potentially have your own shenanigan featured on a Swell Shenanigans episode, a listener episode, you can send them to swellshenaniganspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can send a voice memo to the Anchor website. Go ahead and hit the little message icon, and you can record a voice memo if you would like to hear your voice on a listener episode. And be sure that if you are an audio listener and you want to see my cute face when we make these videos, you can go and subscribe to the Swell Shenanigans podcast YouTube channel. And if you like this episode, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast. New episodes every Wednesday. And that's going to be it. Have a great day. Goodbye.